No, tell me what happened. Is she okay? What's going on, Malik? Who was that? Where are you? Stay where you are. I'm coming right now. Where is she? I don't know. She's not here. We have to keep moving.
The music stopped for Malik Okoro. Not because the nightclub had gone silent, but because his world had. He sat at the center of a private room high above Lagos, surrounded by men who feared even the sound of his name. Crystal glasses stood untouched on the table. Money, weapons, and territory were being discussed in low voices. Then Malik's phone rang. One call. No name. His eyes narrowed. Who is calling this late? He answered. For 3 seconds, there was only breathing. Then a trembling voice whispered, "Sir, please come home." Malik's expression hardened. Who is this? The caller said nothing. Answer me. A sharp sound came through the phone. Something breaking. Then a woman screamed in the background. Malik stood so quickly that his chair crashed behind him. Amara? The line went dead. Every man in the room froze. Malik stared at the phone as if it had become a weapon in his hand. His wife, Amara, was supposed to be safely inside their heavily guarded mansion. Nobody entered that house without his permission. He called back. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Sir? One of the men asked carefully. Malik slowly lifted his eyes. Cancel everything. The man blinked. But the deal? I said cancel it. His voice was quiet. That made it worse. Malik pushed through the doors and stepped into the hallway. Kofi was already moving toward him. What happened? Get the car. Kofi saw Malik's face and stopped asking questions. Within moments, they were outside. The black SUV roared away from the nightclub and disappeared into the Lagos night. Malik sat in the back seat, calling Amara again and again. No answer. His fingers tightened around the phone. Drive faster. I'm already pushing it, boss. Faster, Kofi. Streetlights flashed across Malik's face as the city blurred around him. For years, men had run when they heard his name. Tonight, Malik was the one running. Then his phone vibrated. A message. No words. Only a photograph. Malik opened it. His blood turned cold. It was a picture of his own mansion. One of the upstairs rooms was covered in shattered glass. And on the floor lay Amara's bracelet, stained with something dark. Malik stared at the image. Then he noticed the timestamp. The photograph had been taken inside the house only moments ago. His eyes lifted slowly. Kofi. Yes. Don't trust anyone waiting at that house. Rain tapped softly against the tall windows of Malik Okoro's mansion, but inside, everything felt warm. Golden lights filled the living room. A fire burned quietly, and the smell of Amara's favorite dinner drifted through the house. Malik sat beside his wife, his expensive suit still carrying the coldness of the outside world. On the streets of Lagos, men feared him. One look from Malik could end a business deal, or a life. But Amara never feared that look. You're home early, she said, gently touching his hand. Malik looked at her and smiled. I wanted to see you. Amara studied his face. For a moment, the powerful man disappeared, leaving only the husband she loved. Across the room, Mama Grace watched them with a small smile. She had served the family for years and knew something others did not. Amara was the only person who could calm Malik. Then Chinidu rushed into the room with a school bag hanging from one shoulder. Brother. Malik opened his arms. The teenager ran into him, laughing. You're getting too heavy, Malik teased. You're getting too old. Amara laughed. For a few seconds, the mansion felt like an ordinary home. But when Chinita left, Amara's smile faded. Malik noticed. What is it? Nothing. Amara. She looked away. I've just been tired. Malik reached for her hand. Her fingers were cold. You're shaking. I've seen it. But she wasn't. For weeks, Amara had been quietly searching through financial records connected to Malik's business. Numbers had disappeared. Large amounts of money were being moved through accounts she had never seen before. And yesterday, she had found something worse. Someone inside Malik's organization had been stealing from him. Someone close enough to know every secret. She had printed the evidence and hidden it upstairs. Tonight, she planned to tell Malik everything. If you're enjoying this African story, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with someone who loves emotional stories. And tell us in the comments, who do you think is behind the missing money? Asterisk, asterisk. Amara stood. I need to get something from my room. She walked toward the hallway. Malik watched her disappear around the corner. Then he heard a faint metallic sound from downstairs. Amara stopped. Her face changed. She slowly turned toward the basement stairs. Something or someone was moving below. Amara? Malik called. She said nothing. Minutes later, Mama Grace walked through the hallway and suddenly stopped. Near the basement stairs lay Amara's broken bracelet. Beside it was a tiny smear of blood. Mama Grace's hand flew to her mouth. Then every security monitor in the mansion flickered. One by one, they went black. The mansion had never felt this quiet. Mama Grace stood frozen beside the basement stairs, staring at Amara's broken bracelet. A tiny drop of blood glistened beneath it. Madame Amara would never leave this house like this, she whispered. Behind her, Chinedu came running. What happened? Mama Grace quickly stepped in front of the stairs. Go back upstairs. But where is Amara? Before she could answer, heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway. Victor appeared. The longtime security commander looked calm, almost too calm. Where is Mrs. Okoro? He asked. Mama Grace pointed toward the stairs. You tell me. Victor's eyes moved to the bracelet. She left. Chinedu frowned. Left? Without telling anyone? Victor nodded. She was upset. She took a car and drove away. Mama Grace shook her head. No. She would never leave without telling Chinedu. Victor's expression hardened. Mrs. Okoro is an adult. She can do whatever she wants. Then he walked toward the security room. Chinedu watched him disappear. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. A few minutes later, Chinedu slipped into Malik's private office. His hands trembled as he searched the desk. He found nothing. Then he noticed a small red light blinking beneath the wooden cabinet. He pulled it open. A tiny recording device was hidden inside. Amara? He pressed the button. Her voice filled the dark room. Chinedu, if you're hearing this, something has happened to me. His eyes widened. Mama Grace rushed inside. What did you find? He turned the volume higher. Amara's breathing sounded unsteady. I found money missing from Malik's accounts. Someone has been moving it for months. But that isn't the worst part. A pause. I followed the transfers. Mama Grace covered her mouth. Amara continued. The person behind this has access to everything. The house. The company. Malik's security. Chinedu looked toward the doorway. Who is it? He whispered. Amara's voice became quieter. I don't know how much time I have. But there is one thing you must understand. The recording crackled. The person responsible is someone Malik trusts completely. The screen suddenly went black. Silence. Chinedu stared at the device. Then, footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming down the hallway. Mama Grace grabbed Chinedu's arm. Hide. They slipped behind the thick curtains beside the office door. The footsteps stopped. Someone stood outside. The handle began to turn. Chinedu held his breath. And then a shadow appeared beneath the door. The mansion gates exploded open as Malik's black SUV raced into the compound. Kofi jumped out before the vehicle fully stopped. Lock every gate, Malik ordered. Armed guards rushed into position, but Malik barely noticed them. His eyes were fixed on the mansion. The front doors stood open. Inside, furniture had been overturned. A crystal lamp lay shattered across the marble floor. Amara, Malik shouted. No answer. Mama Grace hurried toward him, tears filling her eyes. Sir, where is my wife? I don't know. Malik's jaw tightened. Then Victor appeared from the security corridor. Boss, you need to stay calm. Malik turned sharply. Where is Amara? Victor hesitated. She left. The room went silent. Malik stepped closer. Say that again. She took some documents and disappeared. I believe she betrayed you. Malik stared at him. My wife. Victor nodded. She may have been working against you. Malik grabbed Victor by the collar and slammed him against the wall. You have 10 seconds to give me a reason not to break your neck. Kofi stepped between them. Boss, wait. Malik released him. Victor straightened his jacket. I'm telling you the truth. No, Malik said coldly. You're telling me what you want me to believe. Chinidu suddenly appeared. She would never leave me. Everyone turned. The boy's voice cracked. She promised she would tell me before she went anywhere. Malik looked at him, and the anger in his face briefly became pain. Then Kofi called from the security room. Boss. They rushed downstairs. Rows of surveillance screens covered the walls. Every screen showed the same thing. Black. Kofi pulled up the system logs. The cameras were shut down manually. When? Malik asked. 37 minutes ago. From outside. Kofi shook his head. No. From inside the estate. Malik stared at the screen. Who had access? Kofi slowly looked toward Victor. Only authorized security personnel. Victor stepped backward. This proves nothing. Kofi checked another file. His expression changed. Wait. He turned the monitor toward Malik. Victor's credentials were used. Malik's eyes hardened. Where is he? Everyone looked around. Victor was gone. Kofi ran outside. Seconds later, he returned holding a phone and a plastic evidence bag. Malik recognized it immediately. Amara's phone. Kofi's voice dropped. We found it inside Victor's vehicle. Malik stared at the phone. For the first time, fear replaced his anger. Then the phone screen suddenly lit up. A new message appeared. Don't trust the man standing beside you. Malik slowly looked around the room. The abandoned warehouse stood beyond the edge of Lagos, surrounded by tall grass and broken concrete. Malik's SUV stopped without headlights. Kofi stepped out first, his hand resting near his weapon. 2 guards outside, he whispered. Maybe more inside. Malik looked at the dark building. Then we go in quietly. They moved through a rusted side door. Inside, the air smelled of oil, dust, and rain. A single light swung from the ceiling. Then Malik saw Victor. His security commander stood beside a table covered with files, bank records, photographs, and maps of Malik's businesses. Malik's face hardened. You betrayed me. Victor slowly looked up. You were never supposed to find this place. Kofi raised his weapon. Where is Amara? Victor said nothing. Malik grabbed him. Where is my wife? A faint sound came from somewhere behind the warehouse. Malik turned. Amara? He followed the sound through a narrow corridor. A locked metal door stood at the end. He forced it open. And stopped. Amara was sitting inside. Her wrists were tied, her clothes were dusty, and a small cut marked her cheek. Malik. He rushed to her. For a moment, the feared Mafia boss disappeared. He dropped to his knees and held her tightly. I thought you were dead. Amara closed her eyes against his chest. I'm sorry. Malik pulled back. Who did this to you? Amara looked toward Victor. He didn't take me. Malik froze. What? I let them take me. Kofi stared at her. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I found the money transfers. I found the secret accounts. Someone has been using your own people to destroy you from inside. Malik shook his head. Then you should have told me. I knew what you would do. His expression changed. You knew. You would have killed everyone involved, she whispered. And they wanted that. They wanted you angry. They wanted you to start a war. Malik stared at her. Who is behind this? Amara swallowed hard. I know the person. Silence filled the room. She reached for his hand. It's someone you trust more than anyone. Suddenly, boom. The warehouse doors exploded inward. Glass shattered. Gunfire tore through the darkness. Kofi pulled Amara down as Malik shielded her with his body. Get her out. Malik shouted. Another explosion shook the building. Malik looked toward Victor. Victor was gone. Malik's eyes narrowed. The attackers had arrived within seconds of his arrival. They knew exactly where he was, exactly where Amara was, and exactly when he would come. Malik slowly looked at Kofi. Someone gave them our location. The warehouse burned behind them. Malik's SUV tore through the wet Lagos roads while Kofi drove with both hands locked around the steering wheel. Amara sat beside Malik, still shaking from the attack. Malik stared through the window. Victor knew where we were. Kofi glanced at him. And Vanessa knew about the accounts. Amara quietly added, "They were working for someone." Malik's fists tightened. "Who?" No one answered. Then Chinita's voice came through the phone. "Brother, I know who it is." Malik immediately answered. "Where are you?" "At the safe house. Mama Grace is with me." "Tell me." There was silence. Then Chinita whispered, "I heard Vanessa talking to someone." Malik's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "I heard her say his name." Amara looked at Malik. Chinita's voice trembled. "Daniel." The car suddenly felt too small. Malik stopped breathing. Kofi looked at him through the mirror. "Daniel Okoro?" Malik slowly closed his eyes. His older brother. The man he had not spoken to in years.
No, Malik whispered.
Amara reached for his hand. "Malik. He would never do this." Chinita continued. "She said Daniel told her everything was going according to plan. He wanted your companies. Your money. Everything Dad left behind." Malik looked down. Memories came rushing back. Two brothers standing beside their father, promising they would protect the family. Then came the years of hatred. Daniel had always believed Malik had stolen their father's empire. But Malik had never known how deep that hatred had gone. Amara's voice was soft. "He wasn't trying to destroy your business." Malik looked at her. "He was trying to destroy you." The phone suddenly went silent. Then another phone rang. Malik stared at the unknown number. His hand trembled before he answered. Daniel's voice came through, calm and almost warm. "Little brother." Malik's face hardened. "Where is my family?" Daniel laughed softly. "Still protecting everyone except yourself. Tell me where you are." "You always were impatient." Malik gripped the phone. "What do you want?" "Everything you took from me." "I took nothing." Daniel's voice turned cold. "You took our father's empire.
You took his respect.
And then you took the only woman who ever made me believe you could still have a heart." Amara's eyes widened. Daniel continued. "But tonight, I took something from you." A muffled cry came through the phone. Malik froze. "Who is that?" Daniel whispered the name. Malik's face went completely pale. Daniel had chosen the one person Malik would surrender everything to save. Rain hammered the roof of Malik's childhood home. The old house looked smaller than he remembered. Cracked walls, broken windows, and faded family photographs covered the hallway. Outside, Daniel's men surrounded the property. Malik stood in the center of the room with empty hands. Across from him, Daniel watched silently. Amara sat beside Chinita, while Kofi stood near the door. Daniel slowly placed an old photograph on the table. Their father stood between the two brothers, smiling. "Do you remember this day?" Malik stared at the picture. "We were happy." Daniel's eyes hardened. "Until you took everything." "I didn't." "You always say that." Daniel stepped closer. But father was already being betrayed. His own advisors were stealing from him. They wanted his empire to collapse. Malik looked confused. "What are you talking about?" Daniel revealed old documents. "The people around father manipulated both of us. They told you I betrayed him. They told me you wanted his empire for yourself." Malik's face slowly changed. Then Daniel revealed the final truth. "Our father didn't die because of you." Malik stared at him. Daniel's voice dropped. "He was killed because he refused to surrender the business." Silence. Malik's knees weakened. All these years, he had carried the belief that his choices had destroyed his family. His eyes filled with tears. "I spent my whole life trying to become stronger." Daniel said nothing. "I thought if everyone feared me, nobody could ever hurt my family again." Malik looked at Amara. "But I became the very thing I was afraid of." Amara reached for his hand. "You can still choose differently." Malik looked at Daniel. "What do you want?" "Your empire." Malik took a breath. "You can have it." Kofi stepped forward. "Boss." Malik raised his hand. "All the accounts, the companies, the properties." Daniel stared at him. And your weapons network? Malik nodded. Everything. His voice broke. Just let my family go. For the first time, Daniel looked surprised. Malik had finally surrendered the one thing he had spent his entire life protecting.
Power.
Daniel slowly smiled.
Deal.
Amara watched him carefully. Then she noticed something beside Daniel's hand. A small photograph. It showed the house, but there were red marks around every window and door. Her heart stopped. Daniel wasn't marking escape routes. He was marking targets. She looked toward Malik and silently shook her head. Daniel noticed. His smile disappeared, and Amara realized the deal had never been about the Empire. A narrow stone staircase led beneath Malik's childhood home. Malik followed Amara into the darkness, with Kofi, Chinidu, and Mama Grace close behind. Daniel remained upstairs, guarded by Kofi's men. At the bottom, Amara stopped beside an old steel door. I found this weeks ago. She unlocked it. The door groaned open. Inside was a hidden vault filled with files, hard drives, photographs, and financial records. A single lamp flickered above the table. Malik stared. How long have you known? Amara's eyes filled with tears. Long enough to know you were in danger. She placed a small device on the table. That call you received tonight. Malik looked at her. It was me. His expression changed. You called me? I triggered the emergency signal. Kofi stepped forward. Why? Because Daniel was preparing to kill Malik. Malik stared at his wife. Then why didn't you simply warn me? Amara lowered her eyes. Because I knew what you would do. Malik said nothing. You would have called every man you had. You would have started a war. People would have died. And Daniel wanted exactly that. She opened a folder. Inside were photographs of Malik's senior associates. Kofi's face tightened. These people? Amara nodded. They have been working with Daniel's enemies for months. Malik picked up another document. Money had been transferred from his companies into secret accounts. Then another. Weapons had been moved without his knowledge. Then another. Private information about his family had been sold. Malik slowly sat down. They had access to everything. Yes, Amara whispered. Mama Grace looked toward the stairs. But who is above Daniel? Amara hesitated. That is what frightened me. She opened the final file. Inside was a photograph of a powerful businessman standing beside Malik's father years earlier. Malik recognized him immediately. His breathing stopped. He was there when father died. Kofi looked at the photograph. So Daniel was only being used? Amara nodded. Daniel wanted revenge. But someone else has been feeding that revenge for years. Malik closed his eyes. Suddenly, the terrifying call made sense. Amara had not called him home simply to save him. She had forced him to see the truth. His empire was already infected from within. Every trusted man could be compromised. Every business could be watched. Every weapon could be turned against his family. Malik stood slowly. No more. Amara looked at him. What are you going to do? He looked at the files one last time. I'm ending the empire. Kofi stared at him. All of it. Malik nodded. Every piece. Then, above them, a gunshot echoed through the old house. Everyone froze. The doors of Malik's headquarters burst open. Daniel marched into the main hall, with armed men behind him. Executives stood frozen around the long glass table. This empire belongs to me now, Daniel announced. Malik stood at the far end of the room.
No weapon.
No guards beside him. Only Amara, Kofi, and Chinidu. Daniel smiled. You finally understand. Malik looked at him calmly.
No.
Daniel frowned. I understand that this was never worth losing my family. He placed a small drive on the table. Daniel's smile disappeared. Amara stepped forward and connected it to the main screen. The room filled with documents. Secret payments. Hidden accounts. Recorded conversations. Photographs. Names of men who had secretly worked with Daniel. Victor and Vanessa stared at the screen in horror. Daniel's face went pale. You planned this. Amara shook her head. We documented everything. Malik looked around the room. For years, I built this place with fear. I believed fear made me powerful. He pointed toward the evidence. But fear also made it easy for people to betray me. Daniel suddenly pulled out a weapon. Enough! Kofi moved instantly, but Malik raised his hand. Don't. Daniel stared at him. You think giving this to the police will save you? Malik shook his head. I'm not trying to save myself. Police vehicles suddenly surrounded the headquarters. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. The doors opened. Investigators entered with arrest warrants. Daniel looked around desperately.
No.
One by one, several of his own allies stepped away from him. Victor lowered his weapon. Vanessa began crying. Daniel stared at them. You promised me. Victor shook his head. You're finished. Police officers moved in. Daniel struggled as they placed handcuffs around his wrists. This is your fault, he shouted at Malik. Malik watched silently. Victor and Vanessa were arrested next. The room that had once been filled with fear was now filled with the sound of handcuffs closing. Daniel looked at Malik one final time. You'll have nothing. Malik looked at Amara. I already have everything. Hours later, Malik walked out of the headquarters. He stopped at the entrance. Behind him stood the empire he had spent years building. He looked at the building one last time. Then he turned away. Amara came beside him. What will you do now? Malik looked toward Chinidu and Mama Grace waiting near the car. For the first time, he smiled without fear. I don't know. He took Amara's hand. But I know where I belong. And as he walked toward his family, Malik finally understood. He had not lost his empire. He had escaped it. Morning sunlight spilled across the quiet hills outside Lagos. For the first time in years, Malik woke without armed men outside his bedroom door. No phones ringing with threats. No secret meetings. No fear waiting behind every locked gate. He stepped onto the veranda with a cup of tea and watched the sunrise. Behind him, Amara appeared. You're awake early. Malik smiled. I'm still getting used to peaceful mornings. She leaned against him. You'll learn. From the garden came laughter. Chinidu was chasing Mama Grace with a garden hose. Chinidu, stop that. Mama Grace screamed before bursting into laughter. Malik shook his head. I never thought I would see this. Amara smiled. You almost lost it. Malik looked at her. I know. His voice became quiet. For years, he had believed money could protect the people he loved. He had built walls, hired guards, created enemies, and made thousands of people fear his name. Yet the night Amara disappeared, none of that power had protected her. Love had. Her courage had. And the truth had finally forced him to change. Inside the house, Kofi entered carrying a folder. Boss. Malik turned. Kofi immediately corrected himself. Malik. Malik smiled. Better. Kofi placed the folder on the table. The new business is ready. The first training center opens next month. Malik opened it. Young people from nearby communities would receive training, jobs, and opportunities. No weapons. No stolen money. No fear. Just honest work. Malik looked at Kofi. You really think this can work? Kofi smiled. I've followed you through worse. Malik laughed softly. Then stay. Kofi nodded. I'm not going anywhere. Later that afternoon, Malik stood outside the new building with Amara beside him. A group of young people walked through the doors, smiling. Amara squeezed his hand. You did this. Malik shook his head. We did. Malik shook his head. We did. She looked at him. Do you ever think about that phone call? Malik's eyes moved toward the horizon. Every day. He remembered the fear in his chest. The broken bracelet. The photograph. The race through Lagos. The moment he thought his entire world had disappeared. Then he looked back at his home. Chinidu was laughing with Mama Grace. Kofi was helping the young workers unload supplies. Amara stood beside him, alive and smiling. Malik gently held her hand. That call didn't destroy my life, he whispered. Amara rested her head against his shoulder. It saved it. Malik watched his family laughing together beneath the golden evening sky. Once, he had believed the most powerful man was the one who owned an empire. Now he knew better. The greatest thing he had ever fought for was already standing beside him.